unripe plantain flour is 100% natural flour gotten from the processing of unripe plantain. It contains no addictive and has a net content of 500 grams. True unripe plantain flour contains vitamin A, B6 and C. It is gluten-free and rich in calcium. Consuming through unripe plantain flour helps to build and strengthen stronger bones and can be a great meal for diabetic patients. It decreases your chances of constipation as it has a high fiber content and provides you with a low-fat diet. Here are some steps to prepare your true unripe plantain flour. Firstly, mix true unripe plantain flour with hot water in a pot and gradually add water till you achieve desired thickness. Place over medium heat and turn very well for 4 to 5 minutes to get the right texture. Mold into a ball and place in a bowl and allow to cool. Serve with your choice of soup. True unripe plantain flour can be eaten with any variety of soup, be it your ofe oha, ofe onugbu, begiri, ewedu, or your miyan kuka. To get your true unripe plantain flour, contact us at 12 Olowera Isheri Road by First Welder bus stop off Omole Phase 2, Olowera, Lagos, Nigeria, or call 070-6663-8213 or 081-6397-4447. Distributors are needed nationwide.
The photography business is a very competitive industry. Every year, thousands of talented photo lovers consider turning their passion into a money-making business venture. Especially in a fiercely competitive marketplace like Nigeria, in which it is very easy for anyone to buy a digital camera and call themselves a professional photographer. According to some practitioners, a new photographer who wants a standard studio can start with a budget of 3.5 million naira. However, one can start with a lower budget of about 500,000 to 1 million naira depending on the tools and cost of rent. On the average, the cost of photography equipment is around 294,790 naira. However, the price ranges from around 41,000 naira to as high as 2.46 million naira. Nigeria has a population of over 200 million people with a vibrant movie industry that produces 50 movies per week, generating annual revenue of approximately $590 million from between 2016 and 2021, helping the photography industry as a whole, according to a recent research by the UN.
The future of cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrencies continue to draw a lot of attention from investors, entrepreneurs, regulators, and the general public. Many recent public discussions of cryptocurrencies have been triggered by the substantial changes in their prices, claims that the market for cryptocurrencies is a bubble without any fundamental value, and also concerns about evasion of regulatory and legal oversight. These concerns have led to calls for increased regulation or even a total ban. Further debates concern inter alia, the classification of cryptocurrencies as commodities, money or something else, the potential development of cryptocurrency derivatives and of credit contracts in cryptocurrency, the use of initial coin offerings (ICO), employing cryptocurrency technology to finance startup initiatives, and the issue of digital currencies by central banks employing cryptocurrency technologies. Market size and opportunities. The total market capitalization of the 100 largest cryptocurrencies is reported to exceed the equivalent of 330 billion euros globally by early 2018. The total market capitalization of all cryptocurrencies together in that period peaked at an even higher $728 billion, dropping just 3 weeks later to approximately $360 billion. In any event, there are compelling reasons why cryptocurrencies should be under
Hello, welcome. This is Business Breakfast, broadcasting live from our studios here in Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. I'm Frank Komalape. Coming up in a moment, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited decry over 200 illegal refineries in the country, says it's ready to address the energy crisis going on in the nation. Our focus in this discourse is to assess the nation's oil company and measures put in place to address the ongoing crisis in the energy sector. And also coming up, according to industry data, generating companies record revenue shortfall by 50% as remittances from electricity distribution companies decline. In these conversations, we take a closer look at the operations and revenue obligations of both the generating companies and the distribution companies. And finally, on the program today, oil prices edged higher on Thursday after depreciating in early Asian trade as concerns about global supply tightness outweighed a build in U.S. gasoline and distillate inventories. Well, that's the focus on the global oil market as it affects Nigeria being the strong oil-producing nation. And there's many more are some of the highlights coming your way on the show today. We'll take a breather. When we come back, of course, we'll give you a top round of stories making news in the business world. We'll be back in a moment. This is Business Breakfast.
Unripe plantain flour is 100% natural flour gotten from the processing of unripe plantain. It contains no addictive and has a net content of 500 grams. True unripe plantain flour contains vitamin A, B6 and C. It is gluten-free and rich in calcium. Consuming through unripe plantain flour helps to build and strengthen stronger bones and can be a great meal for diabetic patients. It decreases your chances of constipation as it has a high fiber content and provides you with a low-fat diet. Here are some steps to prepare your through unripe plantain flour. Firstly, mix through unripe plantain flour with hot water in a pot and gradually add water till you achieve desired thickness. Place over medium heat and turn very well for 4 to 5 minutes to get the right texture. Mold into a ball and place in a bowl and allow to cool. Serve with your choice of soup. Through unripe plantain flour can be eaten with any variety of soup, be it your ofe oha, ofe onugbu, gbegiri, ewedu, or your miyan kuka. To get your through unripe plantain flour, contact us at 12 Olowera Isheri Road by First Welder bus stop off Omole Phase 2, Olowera, Lagos, Nigeria, or call 070-6663-8213 or 081-6397-4447. Distributors are needed nationwide.
The photography business is a very competitive industry. Every year, thousands of talented photo lovers consider turning their passion into a money-making business venture. Especially in a fiercely competitive marketplace like Nigeria, in which it is very easy for anyone to buy a digital camera and call themselves a professional photographer. According to some practitioners, a new photographer who wants a standard studio can start with a budget of 3.5 million naira. However, one can start with a lower budget of about 500,000 to 1 million naira depending on the tools and cost of rent. On the average, the cost of photography equipment is around 294,790 naira. However, the price ranges from around 41,000 naira to as high as 2.46 million naira. Nigeria has a population of over 200 million people with a vibrant movie industry that produces 50 movies per week, generating annual revenue of approximately $590 million from between 2016 and 2021, helping the photography industry as a whole, according to a recent research by the UN.
The future of cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrencies continue to draw a lot of attention from investors, entrepreneurs, regulators, and the general public. Many recent public discussions of cryptocurrencies have been triggered by the substantial changes in their prices, claims that the market for cryptocurrencies is a bubble without any fundamental value, and also concerns about evasion of regulatory and legal oversight. These concerns have led to calls for increased regulation or even a total ban. Further debates concern inter alia, the classification of cryptocurrencies as commodities, money, or something else, the potential development of cryptocurrency derivatives and of credit contracts in cryptocurrency, the use of initial coin offerings (ICO), employing cryptocurrency technology to finance startup initiatives, and the issue of digital currencies by central banks employing cryptocurrency technologies. Market size and opportunities. The total market capitalization of the 100 largest cryptocurrencies is reported to exceed the equivalent of 330 billion euros globally by early 2018. The total market capitalization of all cryptocurrencies together in that period peaked at an even higher $728 billion, dropping just 3 weeks later to approximately $360 billion. In any event, there are compelling reasons why cryptocurrencies should be under more scrutiny by regulators and supervisors. The threat of price volatility, speculative trading, hack attacks, money laundering, and terrorist financing all call for stricter regulation. Cryptocurrency has provided many avenues to financial freedom for many people. As the technology improves, the industry goes from strength to strength. Blockchain technology is now being used to enhance almost every single sector. From gaming to cross-border payments, crypto is now involved. Whilst Bitcoin and Ethereum cement themselves as the two powerhouses of the crypto world, many new exciting projects aim to aid real-world problems. Analysts estimate that the global cryptocurrency market
If you just joined us, this is Business Breakfast coming to you live from our studios here in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. Let's take a look at some of the trending stories now. The federal government, through the Federal Executive Council, has approved reforms to boost Nigeria's non-oil revenue to 3.8 trillion naira and oil revenue to 160 billion naira annually. This was presented by Nigeria's Finance Minister Zainab Ahmed after she presented the report on accelerating revenue mobilization reforms as a derivative of the federal government's Strategic Revenue Growth Initiative. This was disclosed by Laolu Akonde, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity. He mentioned that the reforms would boost the federal government's finance, especially the non-oil revenue. Interestingly, Nigeria's non-oil sector grew by 6.08% year-on-year in real terms in the first quarter of 2022, an increase of 5.28 points from the preceding quarter, which recorded a growth of about 3.58% compared to the rates recorded same quarter of 2021 and 1.34% higher than the fourth quarter of 2022. And in the meantime, the World Bank has disclosed that the COVID-19 pandemic triggered financial inclusion, which led to a significant rise in digital payments. Interestingly, the Global Findex or Findex 2021 database reveals that 3/4 of adults now have a bank or mobile money account. The bank also stated that as of 2021, 76% of adults globally now have an account at a bank. Other financial institutions or with a mobile money provider, up from 16% in 2017 and 51% in 2011. According to the bank, mobile money adoption in sub-Saharan Africa has increased to the point where 33% of adults there now have a mobile money account, which is 3 times higher than the 10% global average. In addition, the data reveals that receiving money into an account as opposed to cash can encourage people to utilize the official financial system, since 83% of those who received digital payments subsequently used those accounts to send money online. And now the Central Bank of Nigeria has released the risk-based cybersecurity framework and guidelines for other financial institutions, sequel to the recent increase in the number and sophistication of cybersecurity threats against financial institutions. The Central Bank also set January 1, 2023 as the effect date for full compliance with the provisions of the guidelines. The bank stated that the directive became mandatory for institutions to consolidate their cyber defenses if they were to remain safe and sound. The Apex Bank added that the guidelines represented the minimum requirement to be put in place by all other financial institutions. The objective of the guidelines, he said, is to, among other things, create a safer and more secure cyber environment that supports information system security and promotes stability of the OFI subsector. It also seeks to promote and maintain public trust and confidence in the subsector, as well as contribute towards the prevention and combating of cyber crime in the financial institution subsector. And finally, the Federal Executive Council has approved power shoring projects for the Transmission Company of Nigeria worth billions of naira in the south and in the north. The Minister of Power, Abubakar Ali, also said the project will boost the capacity of TCN and also respond more efficiently to vandalized assets, adding that it is aimed at strengthening the capacity of the Transmission Company of Nigeria and more shore up power supply in the country. He added that it will raise the capacity of the supply around that area, and it's going to affect so many towns and villages. On electricity supply to troubled areas due to insecurity, he said the TCN was able to take electricity supply through an old line for 33 kV, which they repaired and restored, and were able to take 10 megawatts to Maiduguri, over 130 kilometers on a 33 single circuit. The Core Transmission Company of Nigeria. Well, those were the top trending stories at the moment. And now for further analysis of these stories, Mr. Olusegun Okunade is the chairman of Ikeja District Society of ICANN. He joins us now to look at this in detail. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Frank, for having me.
Yeah,
pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you again join us. I mean, you've seen some of these stories, but let's start from the first one, or maybe I should allow you to start from the one that catches your attention first.
Yeah, pretty well. The 4 topics before us seems to be interesting and fascinating. But let me start on the one that I know impact the common man and the masses. And I'll look from the aspect of the government talking about increasing the non-oil sector. It's something that is quite welcoming. Ask yourself that been growing. Whatever growth that you've seen, which we attribute to about 6% in the analysis given to us, is majorly from the financial, the fintech world that have actually grown over the years. The issue there is, I would advise that government should look critically into one of the threats of that is posing the growth of this non-oil sector, and that's security. Insecurity in the sense that even locally, the food scarcity, it's on the high side. We can attribute that the global space is having its own challenge, but you ask yourself, what have we done domestically to make sure that our people enjoy it? And this was brought to bear during the COVID-19, seeing every country going back to drawing board on how they can improve their local content to make sure that their citizens are self-sufficient. And this is why we are addressing the government, that we have the potential, both human capital, the resources, to increase and improve on the non-crude oil sector. But the major threat is insecurity. And if that can be addressed, I can tell you that we can have as high as over 10 to 15% with the financial improvement in the technological aspect, which is gaining so much attention. And the other one that I might want to draw your attention to is the improvement in the TCN arm.
Just before you go to TCN, yes, just before you go to TCN, let's extensively, deal with these. The first one you talked about, which is about the non-oil sector. If you look at the amount budgeted, that's about 3.8 trillion naira. How significant do you think this will impact on that sector, and how well should we begin to apply these funds? Because implementation is another thing. Yes, you mentioned the issue of insecurity, which is a challenge. Yes, understood. But then again, if you look at the way we go about implementing some of this initiative, is also cause for concern sometimes among stakeholders. Talk to us about that.
I have said this times without number, Nigeria has the best policy in the world. The only gap we have is implementation, which has actually created a setback even for us as a nation. Going by what you asked, the value, the figure in question is it's fine, but how do we monitor some of the funds disbursed into some of these arms? One of the critical things, if we must improve the non-oil sector, aside insecurity that we are faced with now, is infrastructure. And I think I want to give kudos to this administration. But at the same time, security has been a threat. You can imagine the rail system in the aspect of transportation, moving some of these food items from the north, connecting to the south. And even within the southern region, the western region, you are able to move this thing, devoiding them of moving on the road. Within a jiffy, you can see them get to their destination without anybody, clamoring. And that will yield, when you are able to discharge or sell some of the things that you are able to produce, it gives more rise for you producing more. But you discover that Nemes, the man that is wearing that masquerade called insecurity, is threatening some of these things. People devoid themselves of moving via the rail because of the fear of being attacked. They cannot move by road. Our roads are dilapidated in such a way that even those that are moving some of these food items, even by the road, is not. And that's why I keep saying the only thing that is contributing majorly to this non-oil sector is the information technology that we have embraced. In one of your reports, you discussed the issue of the financial inclusion, and you discovered that the level at which fintech is actually moving is assisting us. So many, you heard about in particular, some young guys of little weight selling, some of their products out of the country, earning so much dollar. And you know what? Paying so much tax even to the government.
Let's quickly move to the next story, on the list here. Yes, you talk about the issue of fintech. I mean, how the next story, which talk about the fact that COVID-19 has triggered a rise in financial inclusion. Perhaps this is a blessing in disguise, even though it came with a lot of negative impact initially.
Yeah, I've been an advocate of saying that COVID-19 actually resets some of the things that we've not been looking in that direction for a while. And I've always seen that as a blessing, much more than the negative aspect we're looking at. Everybody is actually overcoming because it's a radical change that we did not prepare for. That's why we consider it to be so much negativity. If you look at the death rate, you can't compare it to what other diseases are actually can be. But I think the highlight of it was that lockdown that we had, gave a room that we can do things differently. Before now, the advent of ICE talking to you would have been moving through the traffic of Lagos to get to the studio. But we can hear ourselves now talking, and this is one of the improvements that COVID-19 has brought our way. We've seen instances where people now work from home, and these are things that people have been advocating for before COVID-19. But an average employer feels that we need to see your face before you can make the best. But people are making more productivity from home, and we've seen instances where infrastructures are being improved upon. People are having longevity of life because they need not to go through the stress of the traffic to get to their place of work. And the financial aspect of it is that everybody is now tech savvy. Even my mommy in the village wants a situation where you can send money to her via some of the new mobile money agents, and she can just capture it. You go around cashless. Before now we have this cashless policy that people are not embracing. But with the COVID-19, when you cannot even get to the bank, everybody had to settle down and look for a way to get their funds. So it's a blessing in disguise, and I think it will continue to improve more. But the area we need the government to assist us is to make sure that the infrastructure are actually worked on. We've had instances where some of these things have been attacked by certain set of people, causing breakdown or shutdown of the telecom system. But with security in town, you have more improvement in this aspect of financial inclusion, and everybody having a buy-in, which will lead us to what the CBN is asking banks to do. Now that we have more people on it, how secure is the platform? Exactly,
because that was, you just took you just took it out of my mouth. I was going to ask you how secure, because recently we saw that over 21 billion naira was transferred to over 8,000 Nigerians, I must say, because a system was, hacked into. I mean, how secure is that system? That's what we also need to look at as well. But again, it's a concern that we need to look at. Is CBN prepared? Because we've seen a number of telcos have been issued what you call payment service bank license. You have the MTN, you have Airtel, apart from the other two that were in operation before the latest licenses. Talking about security, how well are we prepared to deal with this?
Yeah, well, I want to state, Frank, that I think the financial institutions and some of the fintech companies are actually working seriously to make sure that the funds of an average Nigerian is protected. But the area I want some of these financial institutions to work on, and CBN supporting them, is awareness. You see, every bank has that protection, a top-notch one that is difficult to hack. And don't forget, hacking is a profession. Some people do that for a living. And what they do is to see how to beat around your security. In fact, some of these financial institutions, the traditional one and the fintech, engage in this hacking business to see and test, the security measure that they've actually put in place. But what we've seen is that despite all this being put in place, an average person that is making use of some of these things does not have the knowledge of what to do at any point in time that mails or, certain links are sent to them. And that's where I feel that CBN needs to create more awareness, discourage the issue where you just click on links that is not verifiable. Do you know as simple as you having a link with HTTPS telling you that this site you're about to go to is more secure, and that one without S is not secure, can go a long way to educate an individual that when I see a link that is not carrying this particular thing, it shows it's not secure, and it's a function of you risking anything happening, and you don't just respond to anything. And I think the other aspect I want to encourage CBN to do on the financial institution is to make sure that their relationship to every customer is top-notch in the way that they can respond.
Hello, Mr. Olusegun. I guess we're having a bit of internet glitch there. Talking about cybersecurity, of course, is very, very crucial as well. I mean, the last story, of course, we have to look at today is the power generation, as the government, the federal government, approving multiple projects to boost supply nationwide. Recently, we saw a decline in the electricity supply across, the country. Yes, and of course, that impacted heavily on the amount that was generated as well. We also heard that recently the Gencos complaining that their revenue actually declined, and that's because the distribution companies fail to fulfill their financial obligations in terms of revenue remittances to the account of the generating companies. It's a whole lot of issues, of course, we'll talk about in the course of the program today, which, of course, how to address some of the crises between the Gencos or the partners or some of the players in the industry. You have the TCN, you have the generating companies, and of course you have the distribution companies as well. These are the major, pillars that we have. Of course, you have about 11 units of, electricity distribution companies, but of course it's a big one. Do we have Mr. Chesson online now? If you're there, hello, can you hear me? Yes.
I'm very much with you, and I've been hearing you.
Okay, let's try to wrap it up with that now. This approval is coming from the federal government, but TCN, of course, that belongs to the government as well. I think they're also crying. The Gencos are crying as well. The distribution companies are also crying. So, but then again, who will bail the cat out? That's the question.
Yeah, I think investing in the TCN is a right decision. And like people will criticize that it's still in the hand of the government, but I think it's the best approach as we speak, because they are the middleman between the generation and the distribution company. And situation where we are able to transport more from what is being generated. I can tell you that we are generating over 7,000 kilowatt, but it's been pretty difficult for this to be transmitted even to the disco. And a lot of task is still with the disco in making sure that some of the glitches that we are faced with in the area of metering, in the area of removing the cobwebs for them to be able to reduce the ATC losses needs to be worked on. But with the government investing more in the transmission, is a right thing in the right direction, because some of the things that are being generated, I don't know if you've had instances where some of these things are transported even to neighboring countries because the TCN capacity to move some of these things from the Genco to the disco is not there. So I think with that investment, it's going to bring an improvement to our power supply. All we are actually asking for is that we need that because it's strategic to business growth. If there is no power, there's nothing anybody can do. And with the crisis that we have in the energy sector, with the increase in the price of diesel, you discover that everybody is resorting back even to the power supply, which is putting so much pressure on what they have to deliver. So government should do more. With this investment, is the right thing in the right direction, and we can do better even without investment.
I think we should leave it there. Thank you so much, Mr. Olusegun Okwande, Society of ICANN. Thank you for coming on Business Breakfast.
Thank you very much for having me. My pleasure.
Yeah, you have a great day. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're still watching Business Breakfast, coming to you live from our studios here. Still to come after the break, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited have decried the 200 illegal refineries in the country, says it's ready to address the energy crisis in the nation. Well, that's our next talking point when we return from this break. Please stay with us.
Dry Cleaners Limited, professional dry cleaners, best in dry cleaning and laundry services, and meets the needs of our consumers. Yeah, Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Yeah, for clean wash and quick delivery. Yeah. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. For clean wash and quick delivery.
Swift Dry Cleaners. Clean wash, quick delivery.
Unripe plantain flour is 100% natural flour gotten from the processing of unripe plantain. It contains no addictive and has a net content of 500 grams. True unripe plantain flour contains vitamin A, B6 and C. It is gluten-free and rich in calcium. Consuming through unripe plantain flour helps to build and strengthen stronger bones and can be a great meal for diabetic patients. It decreases your chances of constipation as it has a high fiber content and provides you with a low-fat diet. Here are some steps to prepare your through unripe plantain flour. Firstly, mix through unripe plantain flour with hot water in a pot and gradually add water till you achieve desired thickness. Place over medium heat and turn very well for 4 to 5 minutes to get the right texture. Mold into a ball and place in a bowl and allow to cool. Serve with your choice of soup. Through unripe plantain flour can be eaten with any variety of soup, be it your ofe oha, ofe onugbu, begiri, ewedu, or your miyan kuka. To get your through unripe plantain flour, contact us at 12 Olowera Isheri Road by First Welder bus stop off Omole Phase 2, Olowera, Lagos, Nigeria, or call 070-6663-8213 or 081-6397-4447. Distributors are needed nationwide.
The photography business is a very competitive industry. Every year, thousands of talented photo lovers consider turning their passion into a money-making business venture. Especially in a fiercely competitive marketplace like Nigeria, in which it is very easy for anyone to buy a digital camera and call themselves a professional photographer. According to some practitioners, a new photographer who wants a standard studio can start with a budget of 3.5 million naira. However, one can start with a lower budget of about 500,000 to 1 million naira depending on the tools and cost of rent. On the average, the cost of photography equipment is around 294,790 naira. However, the price ranges from around 41,000 naira to as high as 2.46 million naira. Nigeria has a population of over 2.
Glad you are still there with us. This is Business Breakfast coming to you live from our studio. And now the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, has revealed that over 200 illegal refineries are operating across the country with no government-owned refinery working at the moment. He regretted that. This was made known by Kyari when he appeared before the House of Representatives Joint Committee on Petroleum Resources Downstream, investigating the increase in the prices of diesel and cooking gas. Kyari, who acknowledged that the situation was quite unfortunate in his address to the committee chaired by Honorable Abdullahi Gaya, pointed out that NNPC was doing something to make sure the refineries work again. Well, for further analysis, petroleum engineer and chartered accountant Balazaka joins us now via the telephone. Thank you for taking time again to join us on the program. Thank you. First, before I get to the solution and what the MD, the GMD NNPC talking about Mele Kyari said in terms of finding solution to the energy crisis, first is talk about that the NNPC was ready to make refineries work again. How impressed are you with that, confident statement? That statement was made in confidence, right?
Well, as a loyal citizen and as a Nigerian, knowing the kind of energy crisis we are having, knowing that we have a shortage of distillates, knowing that Nigeria has a very weak currency, knowing that we rely on imports, and knowing that among all the OPEC nations, it is only Nigeria whose refineries are not functional. When I hear statements like that, definitely they are statements that give hope. But unfortunately, such statements have been made in the past. We will only wish and appreciate that whenever such positive statements are made by our economic and political leaders, they should match words with action. But to answer straight away, it's a positive statement. And we pray that the statement comes to fruition or becomes actualized one day or someday.
Let's look at some of the highlights of when he appeared before the committee. I mean, he laid out some points or some agenda that the NNPC is working at so as to address the energy crisis in the country. First, he talked about restoration of crude oil production. Secondly, let's talk about provision of more foreign exchange by the central bank to those who are players in the industry, and of course more intervention to what's currently going on in the sector to see if the issue will be resolved by the end of July. And he also talked about the fact that they are going to deliver more supply of petroleum products. Now, take a look at some of these highlights to finding maybe permanent solution to the energy crisis. Let's take them one after the other. Speak to us about it.
On the restoration of production, it is also a step in the right direction, and we are likely to see that if the right variables or indices are in place. I'm saying so because a couple of days ago, within this week, we learned that those who won the marginal field bidding, who participated during the bidding for marginal fields, were awarded their oil prospective licenses. We heard about that. And the expectation is that somehow, somewhere, now that the price of crude oil is very high in the international market, they should be able to take advantage of the moment, go drill more development wells, and boost aggregate production. And if that is done, definitely the OPEC quota volume will be raised. Then even the budget volume that we need to meet up with our internal requirements and the 2022 budget fiscal year will be met. So to that extent, I totally agree with him. Or I agree with the regulator, the body, in this case NNPC and the leaders there. But regarding other areas, the refining and others, it's also a positive statement. But this time around, they should match words with action. We have always known that it is the neglect of the refineries that made us to be having this crisis. Like I will always say, in the last 32 years, from 1990 to now, the refineries that have existed were neglected. They were not rehabilitated. And we didn't construct new ones. Even when we came to democracy, we came into democracy in 1999. We are now in 2022. You are talking about 22 years. Even if we were constructing one refinery in 1 year, we would have been having 2 brand new refineries. So what he is saying is something that we already know, who have had from previous leaders who his predecessors. But all we want is let them match words with actions. And we as their followers or citizens will be there to wish them well, support them. And if we need to construct, we will construct them. If we need to criticize, we will criticize them constructively and in national interest.
Okay. There are also concerns that if the illegal refineries can work, there are those who are refining illegally, and that's why he talked about the fact that there are over 200 refineries or refiners in the country, and they are working. So the question now be, if these refineries are working, how come that getting modular refineries working as was budgeted or planned out earlier, it's not. It seems to be on the same spot, not working. So how do you respond to these two issues?
Thank you for that excellent question. To be honest, I think the managing director was just trying to give some good name or description to this set of thieves. They are not illegal refiners. They are thieves. They are economic saboteurs. They are economic traitors. Illegal refiners are people who are ordinary refiners, but they are not having the approval of government to refine. In other words, they do not have probably the appropriate license to establish, or license to construct, or license to operate. But the kind of people we have are thieves. They are not refiners. Because what they do is they go into the areas where you have this crude oil that do not belong to them, and they steal the crude oil. They break pipes. They steal somebody's properties. It's just like when you are a producer of cassava with the hope of making gari or tapioca, and somebody goes to your farm and steals your cassava and he struggles to produce gari. That person is not a cassava or gari producer. That person is a thief. So the people we are calling illegal refiners, first of all, they don't own the crude oil. They don't own the investment. They don't own the pipeline. They are thieves. So we need to give them the appropriate description. You know, you can only call somebody illegal refiner or illegal parking when, first of all, you have a vehicle and you are parking in the wrong place. They don't have refineries. They are thieves. So we need to look at it from that angle. They gather what we call pollution plants, carcinogenic plants, and toxification materials. Then they steal this crude oil. When they steal, they go, they pump it there and try to boil it. In the process of doing that or heating it, some will pour in the environment and biodegrade the environment so that our farmers cannot farm. The ones that will get to where you have wells will destroy what we call freshwater aquifers. That's why they don't have good drinking water. The ones that will get to the stream will also go there and kill aquatic animals,
right,
like fishes, prawn, and the rest. Then the ones that will go into the atmosphere will pollute the environment and cause all kinds of bronchial problems. So they are, first of all, thieves, economic saboteurs, and those causing health hazards. So they do not even qualify to be called illegal refiners. They should be treated as criminals.
I mean, point taken. Let's look at because the NNPC also talked about the fact that more supply of petroleum products perhaps will address the issue of energy crisis. How significantly would this impact on that particular sector? Because there have been all the other products, for instance, diesel, the prices of cooking gas has gone up, and some other areas as well. Even aviation fuel, you cannot even afford it. So there's a whole lot to be addressed going forward. But the NNPC is optimistic that by July, I mean, that problem will be solved. How optimistic are you about this?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, based on my practical experience, internal domestication will not be possible by July, except we are talking about probably July of 2023. But if it is July of this year, the only thing he needs to come out and say, or our leaders need to come out and say is, they will continue to import in order to cushion the current problems of shortage of distillate. I will agree. Because revitalization or rehabilitation of refineries is not something easy. But one thing I can say, and I stand to be challenged, is all oil-producing nations, oil and gas producing nations, this is their boom time. Because there is energy crisis globally. But for countries that have crude oil and gas, this is the time that they are booming. This is the best time for them to make their money. And that was why I was happy when licenses were offered or presented to marginal field operators so that they can go into production quickly. So, but with the refineries, let us tell our citizens the truth. We just have to continue importing, but take drastic steps in national interest to revamp or rehabilitate the existing refineries. Because the moment we start refining internally, there will be no need for importation of refined petroleum products. So we will conserve foreign exchange. We will build internal capacity.
So you suppose, yes, just a moment.
Just imagine the millions they are making per day.
So what you're saying is that it will significantly reduce the impact of the crisis when we import more. But again, the NNPC is also looking inward as to address the issue as well. They talked about the process of, carrying out a quick fix on the Warri refinery. What are your expectations on that?
And that was what I said. Now, the reason why I applauded it, but I said he cannot fix it between now and July. July is next tomorrow, sir. July is next tomorrow.
So how long do you think? Yes. Just a moment. How long do you think it takes to fix a refinery? There are about 2 or 3, 4 refineries that are not working.
It depends on the level of sickness. It's just like when you say, how long will it take to heal or to treat a patient? Some patients have cancer. Some have ordinary catarrh. Some have leukemia. Some have just ordinary headache. Some have kidney problems. So it depends on the diagnosis of the experts. Let them go carry out an audit of the equipment. But the most important thing is, at the end of the day, let the human capital, let the staff of NNPC, work in national interest. If the staff are doing what they need to do, no matter how complicated the problem is, or no matter how simple the problem is, they will fix it. That is the most important thing. Because at the end of the day, nearly all of them are Nigerians. And if they don't get it right, all of us will suffer as Nigerians.
Now, let me get your opinion on this, Mr. Bala. As it stands today, the saying is that NNPC is the sole importer of crude, of refined product into the country, of course, but there are other players, private sector players as well. Do the private sectors have a stake in this crisis in terms of how to go about it in addressing the problem sustainably? Because it will seem that the NNPC is overwhelmed as well.
Okay, as far as I am concerned, when I heard that NNPC was going to be the sole importer, I applauded the initiative. And the reason why I applauded it then was because we were meant to understand that so many people were given licenses to import, but they were conniving and will be presenting vouchers and invoices to be paid on quantities they didn't truly import. So what we just said, when everything is being done by NNPC, you cannot blame anybody, importer again, and say we told you to import 70 million, you brought 50 or 65 million. That was the reason for the NNPC being the sole importer, which I applauded. But today, it seems as if NNPC is reporting high figures. But to me, I am still convinced that the reason why the consumption is high is because if people cannot afford diesel, people cannot afford kerosene. You can buy 25 liters, put in your car, and use it for 2 weeks. But that same 25 liters, if you run generator, it will finish in 2 days. So when you go to the filling station, and that is what I want citizens to understand, most of the petrol that are being bought are not only for cars, they are to provide energy. And energy in this case means petrol to drive generators. Because even big firms now, hospitals and hotels that we are using diesel, they are now using petrol in addition to other smaller bodies or smaller users. That is the reason for the high importation. But once we fix our refineries, all these things will not be necessary. Because even from here, we will be selling to the West African sub-region. We will become exporters to African countries. The way we are importing now will be the way we will be exporting and conserving foreign exchange.
Now, it's all right. Let's try to wrap it up now. Point taken, excellent point you've made concerning this discussion. As it stands now, like I said earlier, I asked you earlier if you think NNPC is overwhelmed in addressing this crisis. But you also talked about the fact that they need more product, and of course they will ensure that there's more supply of product to address this crisis. Do you think it is time for NNPC to review its position on who should be involved in bringing these products in so that we can have enough?
Well, if NNPC is overwhelmed or they don't have the capacity, they should come out and say so. But as far as I'm concerned, even when we say NNPC is the sole importer, I don't think it is NNPC staff that go there. They will still hire vessels. They will still hire contractors. The only thing is they will do the payment directly and receive the product directly. Rather than giving somebody an import license to go and bring and present a voucher or invoice. This is what I think. But in terms of also being overwhelmed, nearly all the people that are in NNPC now have been there for the past 10 or 20 years. I want to believe that even the managing director of NNPC has been there for probably more than 25 years. So they have been there. They knew how the decay has been growing, how the collapse has been growing. So if there is a change of mind or heart or seriousness to fix things in national interest, they know what to do. But many of them were already employees of NNPC, even when the four refineries stopped working. So they know what has been happening. But in national interest, let them do the right thing. And if they need the support of Nigerians, either to check bribery, corruption, smuggling, and the rest, we should also, as Nigerians, be out to national interest.
Now, finally, what's your outlook in terms of way forward addressing this energy crisis? How soon do you think the country will get out of this?
Well, to me, it depends on how soon our refineries will be fixed. That is the only thing I can say. But let us not make a mistake and say we will remove subsidy on petrol. Because we remove subsidy on diesel, and we can see how everything about the economy has been rubbish. I swear, if we remove subsidy on petrol, a sachet of pure water may get to 50 or 100 naira. A time will come where people will be accumulating money, but the money will become valueless. And that's what we are seeing. Because banks now are shutting down at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. Many print and electronic media are now closing down. Many of them, when you go to hospitals now, they cannot operate again because they run out of diesel. We hear patients dying because there is no diesel, no petrol. When you go to hotels, we hear the same thing. A hotel of probably 100 capacity will only have 10 jets, and they will be forced to run diesel throughout the night. So companies are not, and organizations are not breaking even. Even print media and electronic media like yourself, you are not breaking even. So just imagine what will happen if you remove subsidy on the price of petrol. People cannot go back to diesel. Even go to aviation and see. You are having flight cancellation and massacre. And we are praying to God, let aircraft not start crashing again. So it is a dire situation. So those calling for subsidy removal on petrol, I'm telling you, by the time they do that, the final collapse of our economy will come. Because there will be no energy to resort to. We don't have electricity. You are talking about 200 million of us. Look at what has been happening to the national grid, the frequency of collapse. So what do we do? If there is no energy or generator in your place, now you can't even be talking to me. You can't broadcast to the nation and to the global community. So people should be careful. The consumption of PMS is high because there is no electricity. People cannot afford diesel. And people have gone back to use of firewood, because they cannot afford cooking gas. Kerosene is too expensive. So those calling for subsidy removal on petrol, I'm telling you, by the time they do that, the final collapse of our economy will come. Because there will be no energy or generator in your place. Now you can't even be talking to me. You can't broadcast to the nation and to the global community. So people should be careful. The consumption of PMS is high because there is no electricity. People cannot afford diesel. And people have gone back to use of firewood because they cannot afford cooking gas. Kerosene is too expensive.
So all of these just a fallout of the crisis in the energy sector. Well, we hope that something will be done about it soon, and we hope that the country gets out of this soon. But on this note, we want to thank you for always making your time available for us on the program. Balazaka, petroleum engineer, chartered accountant, thank you for coming on Business Breakfast.
Thank you.
Yeah. Still to come after the break, generating companies record revenue shortfall by 50% as remittances from electricity distribution companies decline. Well, this is according to industry data. And of course, our next talking point when we return from this break. Please stay with us.
Unripe plantain flour is 100% natural flour gotten from the processing of unripe plantain. It contains no addictive and has a net content of 500 grams. True unripe plantain flour contains vitamin A, B6 and C. It is gluten-free and rich in calcium. Consuming through unripe plantain flour helps to build and strengthen stronger bones and can be a great meal for diabetic patients. It decreases your chances of constipation as it has a high fiber content and provides you with a low-fat diet. Here are some steps to prepare your through unripe plantain flour. Firstly, mix through unripe plantain flour with hot water in a pot and gradually add water till you achieve desired thickness. Place over medium heat and turn very well for 4 to 5 minutes to get the right texture. Mold into a ball and place in a bowl and allow to cool. Serve with your choice of soup. Through unripe plantain flour can be eaten with any variety of soup, be it your ofe oha, ofe onugbu, begiri, ewedu, or your miyan kuka. To get your through unripe plantain flour, contact us at 12 Olowera Isheri Road by First Welder bus stop off Omole Phase 2, Olowera, Lagos, Nigeria, or call 070-6663-8213 or 081-6397-4447. Distributors are needed nationwide.
50% as remittances from electricity distribution companies decline. This is according to industry data. The statistics show that DISCOs were unable to pay GENCO's full payment for the quantity of power generated in January 2022. And as a result, the generation companies recorded a 50% revenue shortfall. A breakdown of the data shows that although the 26 generating plants submitted an invoice totaling approximately 72 billion naira, DISCOs were unable to remit only 37 billion, putting the percentage drop in payment to GENCOs to 50%. The 11 utility firms collect electricity tariffs on behalf of the Nigerian electricity supply industry, after which it shares payment with GENCOs and the transmission company. Well, for further analysis, I have Dayo Ekundayo, is the publisher Energy Times. It joins me via the telephone now. Thank you for coming on board. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, and good morning to you all.
Yeah, good morning. Well, yes. So if you look at this data, DISCO's payment to GENCOs dropped by 50%, and the statistics show that DISCOs were unable to pay GENCO's full payment for the quantity of power generated in January. So let's get your opinion on this.
Okay, thank you very much. As I usually say, the Nigerian state power is in a very state of comatose. And except, I don't know whether God can intervene, because the government has intervened in many ways and it has failed. And I don't know the magic anybody can do to revive the sector. Let me start this way. Yes, 50% shortfall, which is even expected. actually, if you look at the apathy on the part of the consumer, it's very great, due to the fact that there is no adequate power supply to the national grid. Now, the one they said they couldn't pay 50% and all those things. Now, if you recall, in January we had the number of national grid failure, and as a result of that, many people didn't have light for almost 2 or 3 weeks. Now, even some gencos now, up to this moment, they are appealing to their consumer to even pay. I mean, you are asking consumer to pay for money for electricity that didn't consume. How on earth that people can be so encouraged to pay? I can tell you, this is month of June. The shortfall will be more than 50%. I mean, the shortfall, I'm even anticipating that there will be more shortfall in the month of June. Possibly maybe 40 or 30%. So, I mean, that's 50. Maybe you can have almost half of what they say they have now, because there is no light. Nobody can say, or most people say they have 12-hour power supply. And part of the analysis made next to this school is in the when we were doing capping, for those who doesn't have meter, was that they must supply them 12 hours power supply. Up to this moment, no consumer can boast in anywhere in this country that they are enjoying 12-hour power supply. And how do you now encourage people to pay?
Now, let me quickly come in, Mr. Kundayo.
Even look at gas supply. Gas supply, the consumer, I mean, the gas supplier is saying that you must pay for Genco to get the gas. They have to pay ahead before they get this thing.
Let me just come in, Mr. Kundayo. I want us to be clear on this. Your position is that discos were unable to remit what they were supposed to pay to Gencos because the consumers couldn't also pay because there was no supply in the first place.
Yes, and they have to pay their workforce. They have to pay their workforce. The little money that is coming in, I can tell you this is what I know very, very well. The little that is coming in, they have to take care of what they have as their workforce. And don't they take almost 80% of this money. Now, in order not to inject it to the workers, that's why all these things will continue to happen. And if care is not taken, consumer, because people have already shifted to generator, and they are spending more. And look at this now. This is almost 1,000. Now, even fuel we are using, if you get it at 165, we are lucky. Even in Lagos here, the average price they are selling in Lagos is 180, between 180 and 200. Everything is too expensive for consumer to bear. Now, you are bringing in 30,000 naira from power supply that didn't come. Maybe once in 1 week. Now, you are asking consumer to pay 30,000. How on earth can that person pay ahead? Please, the system is in a serious comatose. And I don't know, but for all the money the federal government has spent on the Genco and Disco through the CBN, I don't know what is happening. And I will tell you many of these things. Some of these Gencos, some of these Discos don't even have capability to even collect this money the consumer are on there. For instance, look at Ibadan. Ibadan is in Ibadan, where we are, where we know. It spreads to the Niger State. How on earth can an individual or a company supervise the large mass of land, of people, and you want to collect money, you want to say you are generating money, you are distributing power. How on earth can you monitor and ensure the state of power to these people are constant? These are the challenges. Look at even Lagos. Lagos is big, Now, look at, we have only 2 discos. In Ikeja alone, Ikeja spread to almost Ogun State. Now, look at Eko spread to Badagry. So, these are the challenges. How many people will they now? The issue of people are bypassing meter and all these things. There is no way in anywhere in the world that it doesn't happen. It's now dependent on the schools to develop technology that can detect all these faults. And these are the way they are losing money, losing revenue, and those are the reasons why they can't meet up with payments. Yes, they are giving them power. They are costing all this power. but some of this power are getting lost on the midway. These are all challenges. But what we are seeing and what we are likely to see the next few weeks or few days before the end of the year is that some disco will not be able to meet up with index payments. That's what we are likely to see.
So by implication, it's more like the system is collapsing gradually. But let me come to the issue of...
The system is collapsed.
Okay.
Honestly, if we are deceiving ourselves, we say it's collapsing gradually. The system is already collapsed. It has collapsed.
Let's talk. Okay.
Generate power. And now, this concept is, I mean, they don't want to take, because where you take this power to, it doesn't belong to them. They are taking power to wrong places. Now, if you they have, there is a people tapping from there. Now, no monitoring, no technology to detect all these things. Everybody just after money. No equipment to detect some of these faults. Now, especially the last time they were complaining that people are not recharging. They were not recharging their meter. Now, when they are not recharging, what have you done to change this trend, to arrest people, to punish people that are stealing your power? All these things are not there.
Now, let me come in quickly, Mr. Kundayo. I mean, apart from the fact that the customers even didn't, when unable to pay for electricity, or apart from what the distribution company also supply to consumers. Now, one argument is that consumers cannot even pay for what they didn't consume. That's one argument. The second argument is that how come the Gencos will demand so much from a distribution company when they didn't generate such to distribution company, and by extension, then distribution companies can also transfer or supply, consumers as well for consumption. Now, what is missing here? How do you reconcile this complexity?
No, you see, there is no way Genco will charge Disco for power supply they didn't give. No, there are measures, there are ways to get to know this is the amount of power sent to this particular Disco. It is that amount they charge. And even Disco, if you look at how Disco are charging where there is no meter, there is a central system on the meter, on the transformer. That is measure that certain quantity of power distributed to a certain community.
Pardon me for coming in, Mr. Akuna. Pardon me for coming in. Just to be clear, if you said there is no way, the generating companies will require or request for remittances from the distribution companies for what they didn't generate in the first place. I mean, you talk about the fact that there was not even power in the first place for consumers to consume. So we're trying to, understand the complexity here between the relationship between the generating company and the distribution companies, and then, of course, where the distributors will also have to transfer or supply, consumers as well. I mean, help us understand these balances.
Okay, let me explain. Let me just share this thing with you, sir. You see, there is no way, as I said, generation company will build Disco for power they didn't take. Let's get that one clear. There is no way Genco will build Disco for power they didn't supply to them. It is the power, it is between Disco and consumer that the challenges are. And how the challenges, some of them are bypassing. That is the truth. Some of them are bypassing. Some people tap power from home without being meter. Are you getting me, sir?
Yes. But is it possible now? Just a moment. But is it possible?
Yes.
Yeah. But is it possible for the distribution companies to receive this power and store it without supplying the consumers?
Power is not stored. Power is not stored. Corruption is everywhere. You can't tell me that the whole population of Nigeria or the population of electricity consumers are 10.5 million. These are the only number of people they have metered. Other people are unmetered. Now, how do you now gauge what they consume? They gauge it through estimation.
Some people have been billed exorbitantly that will become a burden on them. They don't even pay at all. Now, they will come to the house to disconnect. Once they keep the disconnector with 1,000 naira, 2,000 naira off the go. And that has been the case in many places, especially in rural area, even in the city here. And I'm telling you categorically, there is no way disco will build, there is no way dental will build disco. It's something I know very well. That they will ask them to pay money that the power they didn't take. They take power. The unfortunate thing is between the disco and the consumer, as I said earlier. There are illegal collection everywhere. There is illegal bypass. Some people have tampered with their prepaid meter. These are all the losses. I'm not defending them. But these are all the reasons why some of this power are at stake from the disco shatan. There is no way disco is stop power. Power is just a truth. It goes as it's coming, it's going. You can't stop power. Power cannot be stopped. Once you generate it, it has to go to the grid. And the grid has to be consumed by the consumer.
So in other words, the discos will have to tidy up their house to ensure all the loopholes.
Yes, the problem is with the disco. They need to develop technology that will help them to detect fraud among their members, among their staff, who disconnect and reconnect illegally with them. They have to have that technology that will detect from their office who is consuming their power without pay. All these things are done abroad. These things is not just because we are just coming up with prepaid meter. Benin Republic here, actually every home has a prepaid meter. In fact, you can't even see home in Benin Republic here that doesn't have prepaid meter. The prepaid meter is like somebody advised to us here in Nigeria. And that's why people are desperately needed this. Some people need meter. Some people say they don't even need meter. And I can't blame whoever say they don't need meter. Because where is the power by itself? No power, nothing. In my office, I can tell you, the beginning of this month, we don't have like for 12 hours. If you calculate from June 1st to now, we don't have up to 12 hours in this thing. At the end of the day, they will bring 200,000 naira for us to pay.
Now, how do we address going forward now? How do you think these, disparities and differences be addressed? How do you think it should be addressed?
Next is already step up action on it. There was a press, the chairman addressed the press 3 or 4 weeks ago where he step up action. Where, for instance, as from July 1, he said they will be generating up to 4,500 megawatts, which we are sure that it will ensure at least stability in the power sector. But the issue is that the disco have to tidy up their own side of it, because the disco is the next to the consumer. And most of what we are having now is between consumer and disco. And we have corrupt people in disco. There are so many. Everybody is desperately looking for money. I've seen a situation where they even connect your meter. They are collecting money from you. To connect the meter you have paid for, they will collect money from you because it's giving them before they install it. So the corruption is the major problem. 1. 2. The disco have to tie up whatever they are doing to ensure that they have a good technology that can discover some of these faults on the consumer side. And once they do that, you will see that there is a reduction in some of these things. Now, the NEC is already taking up some of these challenges. They are going to have something in their office where they will be monitoring what goes to each of the consumers. Because they are going to have what Tenco supply to Disco, what Disco distribute to the outside. So if the meter, if the cost they give to particular.
Hello, Mr. Cowdy. Oh my, I think we just have to wrap up. Thank you so much, Mr. Cowdy Ekundayo. Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Cowdy Ekundayo. He's a publisher at Energy Time. Thank you for your time on Business Breakfast.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. You're still watching Business Breakfast. Coming still to come after the break. Brent crude futures for September. The more actively traded contract rose 63 cents, or about 0.6%, to $113.08 a barrel in early trade. We'll be back in a moment. Please stay with us.
Swift Dry Cleaners Limited, professional dry cleaners, best in dry cleaning and laundry services that meets the needs of our consumers. Yeah, Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Yeah, for clean wash and quick delivery. Yeah, Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. For clean wash and quick delivery.
Swift Dry Cleaners. Clean wash, quick delivery.
And on the international scene, let's start from the oil market now. Prices edged higher on Thursday after dipping in early Asian trade as concerns about global supply tightness outweighed a build in U.S. gasoline and distillate inventories. Well, Brent crude futures for September, the more actively traded contract rose 63 cents to $113.08 a barrel in early trade section. The less liquidity traded August contract, which expires Thursday, was at $116.08, down 18 cents to about 0.2%. As U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures climbed 49 cents to about 0.5% to $110.27. Crude oil pushed higher in early trading after a bullish inventory. Crude inventories fell by 2.8%, 2.8 million barrels in the week to June 24, far exceeding analysts' expectations in a Reuters poll for 569,000 barrel draw. U.S. Energy Information Administration data showed even as U.S. gasoline and distillate stockpiles climbed, few stocks rose as refiners ramped up activity operating at 95% of capacity, the highest for this time of year in 4 years. And our stocks in Asia fluctuated Thursday as investors weighed signs of gradual improvement in China's economy amid ongoing concerns about the U.S. recession from monetary tightening. Stocks fell in Japan and rose in China, while Hong Kong was steady. The dollar dropped and Asia currencies rebounded after China data showed a strong pickup in services spending as COVID-19 outbreaks and restrictions were gradually eased. U.S. futures paired declines after the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100 ended tight to changed in a choppy trading amid end-of-quarter portfolio rebalancing. They had dropped earlier as traders upped their bets on the recession, eventually halting the Federal Reserve's aggressive tightening campaign. Federal Chair Jerome Powell and his counterpart in Europe and the UK warned inflation is going to be longer lasting as they gathered at the European Central Bank's annual forum in Portugal. A view that central banks misjudged inflation has roiled financial market this year, with global stocks about to close out the worst quarter since the 3-month ended March 2020. Well, of course, it's the last trading day of the week, and this is where we'll wrap it up this week. Of course, the business week as well. We'll keep a ride on the market, both internationally and domestic market as well. Many thanks for watching. We're back again on Monday. I am Franco Malape. I'll see you again.